All right, any given Sunday sports special. We're back. It's Jesus. I'm here. Draft is over. I know we took about a week, but we had a lot to take in with that draft. Already, a lot of moves have been made, whether it's via trade, whether it's free agency. There's a lot to get into, guys. We're going to break this down into two shows. The first show, we're going to talk all about the West, Steve's favorite division. And then after that, the next show, we're going to talk about the East. So let's start it off with Steve's favorite stuff, the West Coast. And Steve, I'm going to get ahead. I'm going to give you the floor, bro.
All right, absolutely. I think in true fashion, we're going to go from, bottom to top in the West. And this is nothing against the first team. We just have no history on them. They've never been in AGS. They're the rookies in town. And that's Gabe's team, a.k.a. Florida Thirst Traps. A funny name, to be quite honest. I like it. So let's go to his team, fellas. Let's start it off with his draft. I'll kind of go first. For the first time, I think Gabe did okay. He set out with a game plan, and I think he followed it to the most part. There were some opportunities where I know he was looking for some players to get, and he ran out of money. I think where a lot of people are going to question him on is the ODB for $97, because I don't think anybody expected him to go there. But again, he counteracted because he knew he was going to go that high. I mean, he had Cam, he had Mark Ingram, and Sterling Shepard, and he had a lot of money. So he could go that route. As far as where I have him ranked, I have him ranked around the 8 spot just because there is no, and just to be clear, I grade on 4 things. I grade on roster, team management skills, GMing skills, and the draft. So I'm not just looking at one thing. So right now I have him 8.
Just real quick, Steve, I'm sorry to cut you off, fam. So if anybody's hearing that noise in the background, that's just my man Anthony. He's actually so dedicated. He's here on the show, but he is also on the road taking care of some personal business. You gotta respect that. Also in his place in case
on the car phone. That's so I'm dedicated to AGS.
That's right. And just in case if we lose him, we also have a former champ, one of the veterans of this league. He was very happy with his draft. We have Dennis here as well. Dennis, I know you hide in there somewhere.
I'm around here somewhere.
You see, there he is. He's on. So go ahead, Steve. I'm sorry that we cut you off, but so obviously you have a very in-depth grading scale. So go ahead, continue on.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, I have him 8. As far as out of the 10 teams, and again, a lot of it is just we've seen him in another league, but that's with 8 teams. We've never seen him in a 10-team league, drafting with funds. And then being able to find keepers and manage that, it's completely different than the Dynasty League. And I think $97 for ODB, like he got his star player. The problem that I'm seeing with his team is his depth, and he's already suffering because, as you guys know, Spencer Ware is done for the year. So he's gonna have a problem come down the road. He's gonna have to find some guys off the waiver wire and be a little bit more competitive, because I look at the landscape of AGS, and I just think it's going to be very tough for him. I think I don't think he's going to do bad by any chance, but it's more the question of he has to prove it, and I don't know with this roster if he can do that. That's where I stand.
That's fair enough. I completely understand your thought process there. So Anthony, my man, we're gonna give you the floor. So then that way you can mute out, stay on the line, but he'll mute out, so that way we'll have a little bit less of that background. So Anthony, go ahead, you take the floor.
Not a problem. I'll make it really quick. The challenge with anything that when you're putting a roster together is that you want to try to find balance as best you can at whatever dollar amount that you can. The problem is that you spend the money on Odell Beckham. Now it seems crazy. I don't think it is. I think if you have that kind of money, and especially in an auction-style draft, your guy's there, you get him no matter what the price is. He gets him. It's great. But the whole problem that you run into is that all of a sudden the guy gets injured. And then, they're saying he may be ready for the first game. He may not be. It might be 2 games. Who knows? But that's the risk you take. I got to give him credit more than anything else that he really came in there. He said that I'm going to get this guy. I'm going to get that guy. And they got the guys he wanted. I mean, at an expensive value or price, whatever else like that, you don't stress about what may come, because like I said, guys get hurt, things get injured, guys move around. Like Jarvis Landry was going to be a really good pickup, and well, I'm just speaking in general, but more in the sense that like now the Dolphins are trying to move him. So what was inherently valuable is no longer valuable. Julian Edelman was valuable. All of a sudden he gets hurt. So I can't really fault the guy from doing whatever he's doing because he's trying to put together the best roster you can. If you want to spin and you get yourself a big piece because you feel you have Cam and you have Shepard and everything else like that, it comes in handy. Like I said, even if Beckham is hurt, he still has Shepard, who should step up in that role next to Brandon Marshall, who also may be dealing with a little bit of an injury thing. I think Gabe's improvement. Like I say, not only is he one of the newer members of AGS, he's also one of the youngest. So he's definitely getting a feel of the fantasy football vibe and everything else like that. So I can't fault him. I'm saying that he's making a mistake or anything. I just hope that Beckham comes out and puts everything together. That Cam has a good season because he only threw 2 passes, but Kelvin Benjamin looks terrific with Carolina right now. So that really might bring Cam back, and it might be a saving grace for him. But I definitely think that in the future you might want to spin it a little more wisely and spread it around. But I cannot fault the guy from getting the guy he wants to get. But that's my opinion on it.
Okay, fair enough. So, Dennis, I know you're hiding there somewhere, so go ahead. What do you think about Gabe's draft?
Well, just say $97. Just see how that comes out of your mouth. $97 for one single player.
So, needless to say, Dennis did not like it too much.
We can cross this however you want to do it and come up. Okay, well, he is like this guy. He may have, and I don't know well enough.
Yeah, we're losing you, Dennis.
Or does he single value him higher than any single person in that draft? That's a question you have to ask yourself. Are you doing this for fandom, or are you just doing this to win? I don't like spending anything over $50 or $60. That starts to bug me right there. So to know that I could break that up and get 3 $30 players or 2 $45 players and have a stronger lineup, man, that's the kind of the route that I'd want to go. But I think as you get a little later into the league and you've had a couple years under your belt, you kind of see what you have to do. And to me, this is a learning experience because there's no way next year he goes in there and spends $97.
Okay.
He can't keep.
That's fair enough. I mean, look, I get it. I get the whole whole $97 talk. I do. But with that being said, I'm sorry?
Half of your salary.
I get it, Dennis. With that being said, though,
Football.
I don't know. I think we lost Dennis, guys. I don't know what's going on. I think we lost.
No, he's still there. But go make your point.
Okay. So with what Dennis is saying, it makes complete sense. The whole why spend $97 on a player. I can't knock that because Dennis makes a lot of sense with that. But what we're failing to realize is the kid went into the draft with 3 players. So in essence, he had 4 players, and I believe 100. Correct me if I'm wrong. About $107, $108 after acquiring Odell Beckham Jr. So what was the real raw number there of Odell? Realistically speaking, that probably gives Odell's raw numbers based off of the value of a Cam Newton, of a Mark Ingram, and a Sterling Shepard. That gave Odell's Beckham value between $60 to $70. At that point in time, I'll be honest with you guys, I don't have a problem him spending that kind of money on Odell Beckham if you break it down in that form. I'm going to continue.
I think from my perspective, and I kind of see where Dennis is coming at, is you get like the drop off between an Odell Beckham Jr. and say let's just say a Jordy Nelson, or even who's the guy who went? Oh, Mike
Thomas.
Michael Thomas, who went for 70. What is that drop off? Because I get where Dennis is trying to. I think this is where you're trying to go, Dennis. Is that $20 essentially? You're only losing like a point and a half on average per game.
Between that makes sense.
Is that extra point and a half worth the additional $25 that Gabe spent? And I think that's where Dennis is like, that's where it doesn't make sense. It's crazy. And I get what you're saying, is that he had the money to spend, but that $25 could have been used to get himself another flex spot, which
That's-
now with with Spencer Ware hurt, and now these are his running backs essentially: is Matt Forte, Mark Ingram, and Jordan Howard.
Yep.
So he's already running thin as it is.
Iffy.
Yeah. Big time. He's big time running thing, because then we're also not even talking about the fact that what if Odell Beckham does miss that first week? Granted, reports are that that they expect him to play because he's with a specialist and he's in Phoenix and doing all these extra stuff or whatever, and the fact that he hasn't missed a game in 2 years and all this other stuff. But still, there is still that risk that he could miss a game, which then puts Gabriel in a real pickle.
It's just the all the eggs in one basket syndrome.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
It just doesn't.
Dennis is exactly right, because he puts it literally. Everything is on Odell.
There's room to learn from that, and I think if he maybe makes a couple of moves, maybe he's back in the discussion. But having that $97, that bothers me. Just while the draft was going on, it was making me go crazy that it was going that.
So with that being said, because then Dennis comes back and Dennis says, well, he needs to make some moves. So he goes ahead and he trades his backup quarterback, Jameis Winston, and Eric Decker. And in return, he gets Phillip Rivers and Tyreek Hill. I love that move. I absolutely love that move. Because what he does is he gets himself a starting wide receiver, and then he gets himself a quarterback in Phillip Rivers, who, if we're just being honest, Phillip Rivers actually has one of the easiest schedules in the league this year. So minus.
Quarterback.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear him. I don't know if you guys did, but yeah. So that's just me.
Yeah, I didn't hear him.
Yeah, that's just me. I have no problem with that trade. I love that trade that he did. Now, overall, he's dealing with some injuries, which is put him behind the 8 ball. But Cam Newton's schedule this year, I'm gonna read it to you guys. I want everybody to understand how historically easy the schedule is. Okay, Week 1, San Francisco. Week 2, Buffalo. Week 3, New Orleans. Then New England. Then Detroit. Then Philly, then Chicago, then Tampa, then Atlanta, then Miami, a bye week, then the Jets, then New Orleans, then Minnesota, then Green Bay, then Tampa Bay, and then Atlanta. Where is there one single top defense there? I don't see one single top secondary. Maybe we could say New England. I guess that's the one that we could say.
I mean,
because they're a team.
Yeah, and I get where you're going at, Jesus, but it's enough to overcome. I think he definitely, the trade worked in his favor, and he definitely did the right thing. I mean, I just think it's a large hill, and I remember doing this. I think when I first started in the league, the highest then was like going up to like $65. It was unheard of. People just didn't want to go that high, and I was one of the first to do it. And, it took an adjustment, because you have to, on the back end, you have to know your guys in and out. And I know Gabe did his homework, and I'm not saying he didn't. It's just, this is the problem with that strategy. We've seen it with Lewis. We've seen it with myself. When you go so top heavy, and you don't have enough backup, no matter how many trades you do, it's just difficult to come back.
But we're forgetting about his running back that he picked up. Do we all forget the running back that he drafted? Jordan Howard. He got for $41. I don't know if you guys are watching this game. By the way, everybody, right now, as we're watching the game, Chicago's playing Tennessee. That guy's legit. He is a legit running back. Look, I have Gabe number 6, so my preseason rank doesn't have him in the playoffs. So I don't want everybody to think that I'm over here extremely high on him, because I'm absolutely
right.
I don't have him as a playoff team. But I will tell you this: he is definitely gonna be in the running for the playoffs. Jordan Howard, Odell Beckham, Cam Newton with that easy schedule. You have Darren McFadden for the first 7 weeks. And then he has Tyreek Hill. You guys tell me how that's not a team that can compete for the playoffs. What am I missing?
I think it's a decent team. I'm not saying, I just don't see it as a playoff team today. I think he's still like 1 or 2 pieces away.
Okay.
I just don't see it right now. I'm not saying he's not going to be a competitive team, and that's why, again, My number 8 is also considering he's never been in this format. He's never drafted in this format, so this is new to him.
Yeah.
And it's a 10-league team.
That's an adjustment period.
Yeah, it's definitely adjustment. So that's he has a high ceiling, I should say. But I just today looking at this roster, I just don't think it's enough. I think he's a middle of the pack team today.
That's fair enough. Well, we do have a lot more teams to get to. So, Steve, I'll let you go ahead. And who do you want to go with next in that West Side?
Of course, your favorite guy. We have to pick your favorite guy next, and that is Jesus never wins, and in quotations, FU, and that would be Dom. Let's start with his team, and you know what? Let me kick it to you, Jesus, because the texts have been great. I love the trash talking. Me and Dennis trash talk each other all the time, so I know both of us were smiling reading these texts. So we will kick it off to you, my friend. What do you have to say about Dom's team?
It's trash. It's absolute trash. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, is there a debate? The guy, I mean, think about it. He's bragging because he's going into the season with his big three of AJ Green, Amari Cooper, and Lamar Miller. I'm sorry, and DeMarco Murray. That's his big three. That's his big three that's going to go ahead and bring him to a championship. If you're happy about a big three like that, then not just your team is trash, but you're probably just as much of a trash GM. The guy has made the playoffs. I'm going to be very specific. He's made the playoffs one time.
Oh, boy.
One time in the last 5 years. I'll repeat that one more time. He's made the playoffs one time in the last 5 years. He has one championship. He has a championship. That one championship, he got blackout drunk.
Can't take that away. Once you're a champ, you're a champ.
Let me finish. He got blackout drunk. He traded away Adrian Peterson, who at that time was coming off of, if I'm not mistaken, a 2,000-yard season, for Arian Foster, who nobody even knew who he was at the time. It was so bad that I had people in the league complaining, why is this guy in the league? Then it was so bad that Dennis had to come to his defense to say, no, this guy needs to remain in this league because I was the one that I'm trading with him and I'm benefiting from him being in the league. So it's I'm joking about that last part, by the way. But
man.
But he got blackout drunk and he made it, and he was great that 1 year with the waiver wires. He was great. There's no doubt about it. I'm not going to take that from him. His waiver wires were amazing that year. But what the heck has happened after that? I mean, even Barry Switzer got lucky with the team once. But what do you want? Do you want a Barry Switzer as your head coach, or do you want a Marty Schottenheimer as your head coach? Marty Schottenheimer could have won a championship with that team. Steve could have won a championship with Dom's team at that 1 year when all of a sudden Arian Foster decided on becoming great. So I'm sorry, but I'm speaking facts. Everybody else in this league has been trending upward. Anthony's gotten better. Steve has gotten better. Dennis sure as hell has gotten better after what he did with Jeff's team. Pops has won championships. I'm getting better. I've made the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years. Everybody's gotten better. Everybody's trending upwards except one person in this league. That's one person, and that's Dom. So I'm gonna read to you his team. And if he likes his team so much, why is half his team on the trade block? If he's such a good GM and so great at drafting, why is half his team on the trade block? Why is he begging everybody to take him? Go ahead, Steve. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, look, I understand where you're coming from, and yes, I will say from a team management GM perspective, he has slipped a bit. I will not debate you there, and numbers are numbers, and 1 out of 5 is pretty bad. However, this team and this roster, to me, is actually not as bad as you think. And the reason why is it's a lot of potential. This is a team that I look at and I'm like, it's not great this year, but next year, this would be a nice team, right?
Yes, that's right. But he's not talking about next year. He's talking about this year.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. I'm looking at guys specific like Joe Mixon that he got, which I think Joe Mixon for 21 was a little high, but I get why, because Joe Mixon probably wins that starting spot by week 4, week 5, if not earlier. Derrick Henry, you guys know how affectionate I am for Derrick Henry. I mean, that's a guy who I think has great potential and potentially will unseat DeMarco Murray for that starting spot. Me and you, Jesus, have already debated about Amari Cooper, so you know how I feel there.
Absolutely.
AJ Green, as long as he could stay healthy, he could put up some points. I think where the weakness comes is just like it's still a lot of guys with all this talent. There's still young talent that's unproven, and then you got some guys that are just older that are risks, like Larry Fitzgerald, and Matthew Stafford or Dak Prescott as their QB. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Matthew Stafford. It's like I said, this is a roster that has potential next year. I have him 10th.
I'm sorry. Say that again. Say what position?
I have him tied for 9th, 10th.
Okay, and how many teams are in the league?
There are 10.
Well, hold on a minute. Do you have him 9th or do you have him 10th?
I have him tied for really the last spot. There's 2 teams that I look at.
Okay, but you can't have a tie right now. Who is the worst team in this league right now? If you have to pick one, is he 9 or is he 10?
Based on roster or based on everything?
Based on whatever you base your rankings on.
My rankings, I would have him 10th for right now.
Thank you. So then that's trash because he's bragging about his team for this year. Read the text messages. He's not saying like Dennis is, I'm building for the future. Those words have never come out of Dom's mouth. Dom is focused on this year. And if that's what he's focused on, you have him 10th. I have him 10th. That equals trash. 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 Who's next?
That's a lot of trash.
Go ahead, Dennis. What's your thoughts?
Well, I kind of see it in the middle. And even though he hasn't said, he's come right out and said, okay, well, I'm building for the future. I would look at his roster, and I would say, okay, well, he's got 3 or 4 people that he could definitely have for the future. So I'm hoping, or at least that's what I'm looking at, is I'm saying, okay, well, he's got Mixon. Who else does he have? What is he?
Henry. He's got
Henry. Murray, right?
Yeah, he's got Murray. Mm-hmm.
He's got some younger guys. Like Amari Cooper's young. I'm not sure what he's going to turn out to be. I kind of am on the fence about Amari Cooper. But I could see where he's going with it. You know what I mean? Do I look at the rest of his team and say, okay, well, I'm not threatened by his team in any way? Yeah, I feel that way.
Bang.
That's just me being honest. I'm not threatened by that team. But I also know Dom is a mover, and he likes to manipulate the waiver wire. And he's shown that he can be pretty effective doing that. So I don't like to necessarily say anybody's out of it.
He's pretty darn close. He's pretty darn close.
I don't see how he makes the playoffs. I'll put it that way.
So I'm gonna go ahead now. I'm gonna help him out. Because this is how I'm feeling about this situation. Dennis wants to be nice, so Dennis won't put an actual number where he has him. But Dennis is saying he's not making the playoffs. But I hear you guys bragging about how good his keepers are. Oh, they're so good. They're so young and everything like that. Joe Mixon.
They are.
Joe Mixon, $21. Amari Cooper, $26. That right there, my friends, is already $47 between the two of them. If he keeps a third player, whatever the price is, even if he keeps, let's say, for example, DeMarco Murray, that's $5 plus 20. That's $25. Where's he saving?
I get that. I get that, but I mean, again, he's not saving anything.
Well, that's still better than buying an Odell Beckham for $97.
Exactly.
Agree with that. I mean, yeah, that's a given. Yeah, I give you that.
Even though they're expensive keepers per se, those two guys, their potential. I mean, Amari Cooper, I've said it before, has the potential of being a top 5 receiver. We all see that. Joe Mixon, he was going to be a first rounder if he didn't go through that situation, and he definitely would have probably went for more had he not gone in the second round, if he went for a different team. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I get what you're saying, Jesus, but the fact of the matter is his roster's really, and you're right, he should have said, this year I'm trying to be somewhat competitive. I'm really looking for next year. And how I'm going to do that is with Amari Cooper, Joe Mixon, and let's say Lamar Miller. For $1, you know what I mean? Then I could be like, okay, I get it, because Amari Cooper, He's close to getting top 5. I mean, I know Dennis disagrees, but I see the talent there, so I know why he did it. And then Joe Mixon.
Talent, don't get me wrong,
Everybody
I
was a
agree
fan
with
of
you.
Joe Mixon. You know?
You guys are so nice. You guys are so nice. I don't
I'm
have any more time.
reality.
I don't have any more time. I mean, you guys. It's funny because you guys are nice, but then you're slapping them in reality because you're both saying how horrible this team is. But you guys are trying to be nice about it. I'm just saying it. I'm calling it. I'm calling a spade a spade. I'm calling a spade a spade. And then Dennis. And then one last thing. One last thing because we do need to move on.
Yeah.
I love how everybody talks about how great Dom is in the waiver wires. I love how everybody talks about it. But you guys tell me, when was the last time that he's dominated the waiver wire? And mind you, he's usually one of the top picks in the waiver wire. But when was the last time he's really dominated the waiver wire?
I didn't say he dominated. I didn't say he dominated the waiver wire.
No, I'd say that he's. I wouldn't say necessarily dominating the waiver wire, but he has picked up some. He has made some moves through the waiver wire. I think him and Pops are really good through the waiver wire. I think those are two of the better ones.
I think Pops is the best. Yeah,
like
I give you that. Yeah, definitely.
That he has to do to through there. There's not players out there right now that I can see. Now, there's always those unicorns that come running around, out throughout the season if somebody catches lightning in the bottle.
Yep.
And he's going to need to do that quite a bit.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think Steve's assessment of having him 9 or 10, I think, is somewhat accurate.
Yep. Thank you, Dennis. I appreciate your honesty.
Trash, because he does have some potential. He does have some really good keepers, I think, for next year that he can build around, if that's his plan.
If that was his plan, then yeah. If that was his plan, then yeah. But I mean, I won't use the word trash because maybe some people don't like that, so I'll just use the word basura. If that's a little bit better.
It's the same thing, bro. Same thing.
Let's go ahead. Let's go to the next team. What we got? What we got next?
All right, so let's do. So I'm basing this how we finish. So with the next one, let's go with my man Dennis.
Oh, okay. All right. So who's starting off with Dennis? Matter of fact, let Dennis defend himself first, and then matter of fact, Steve, you go first, and then we'll let Dennis defend himself. Go ahead.
All right,
go ahead.
All right. Dennis, you know how I felt when you picked up T.Y. Hilton. I hated you for it. I can't stand you for doing that. That made me so angry. But I get why you did it. You took our advice by keeping Michael Crabtree, which I think we all agreed when we did the show a while back that made the most sense. Look, with Dennis, like this roster, to me, it's not that great. I didn't like the Todd Gurley trade. I guess I get why it was done because, again, you've made statements multiple times that you're planning for the future. So because of that, you get my pass because if it were based on this year, I wouldn't like the team. That's just my honest opinion. I don't like Alshon Jeffrey. Dalvin Cook, I like. I'm glad that you got another. What's his name? You kept Michael Crabtree. Doug Martin, I like that for $12.
You mean Gurley?
No. Doug Martin for $12.
Okay.
I think he got extreme value for that. I think a lot of people looked at the 3-game suspension and said, "I'm not going to mess with it," and then, heard the rumors that he's not going to be a starting running back. But if you watch the preseason and how these running backs are performing, nobody's running away with it. And it's been Doug Martin who's actually been performing. So I think you hit that one perfectly. But all the rest of the guys, man, I mean, like, you have options for next year. Jamison Crowder, Tevin Coleman, if should anything happen to Freeman, you have that backup. I loved Marcus Mariota pickup because I was not a fan of the Kirk Cousins. I didn't know why you did that, but because you got Marcus Mariota, I think he could be your guy for the future as far as a quarterback. So as far as rankings, and this is solely based, like I said, mine's a little bit different. I know a lot of people would probably put Dennis lower, but I'm also combining team management, GM, and drafting and the roster. And because of the team management and GMing, you're still a problem. I have you 4th because I truly feel you're going to find somebody who's going to give you a raw deal, and you're going to be back in this thing. So as of right now, I don't see you making the playoffs, but I'm not counting you out by any stretch of the imagination because you're only 1 to 2 trades away, and you could absolutely grab the 4th spot, and then on top of that, still be able to make the playoffs. But I hope you don't, and I hope nobody trades with you.
That's the weakest trash talk I've ever heard in my life. Go ahead, Dennis. You're up. That was weak.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, from the beginning when I took over, we're talking about trash. Or when I got that huge dumpster that you guys all left me in the form of Jeff's team, I didn't get to come in and have people, really valuable keepers that I could use. So in the beginning, like I always said to you, Jesus, this is a 3 plan.
Yep.
We had to get rid of a lot of that garbage and bring in some valuable keepers. Last year, to me, even though we showed signs of a little bit, it wasn't my guys, and there was really no one I could look at as to say, okay, well, here's some valuable pieces. I had none. So this year, when I went out and got Hilton and McCoy, things I said to myself is that, well, what am I doing here? Am I going to really be able to compete with some of these guys? Or should I really start looking at getting keepers for the future? So I said to myself, all right, well, I'm going to get rid of McCoy for Gurley. Gurley got a brand new left tackle out there. They're in a young offense. They just got Sammy Watkins. So there's room for him to grow. We're talking about a 23-year-old running back in opposed to McCoy and a 29-year-old running back who's just lost his veteran wide receiver. Tyrod Taylor just got his head kicked in last night.
I saw that.
So I'm not sure how I feel about that offense there now. Don't get me wrong, McCoy's still going to get his stuff, but back to me, it's I wanted to get a little bit younger. I have those pieces now. I've got 2 really young quarterbacks, and I know a lot of people aren't sold on Kirk Cousins, but Kirk Cousins balled out last year.
Ranked number 5 in our league. He was ranked number 5.
The weapons this year.
He was the number 5 quarterback in our league last year.
I look at numbers, look at how young these guys are, and if I'm going to start getting back into this league, I got to start making moves to solidify that.
Yeah,
so
and
Gurley's a young running back. I got 2 young quarterbacks. I got a couple of young wide receivers. And next year, I'm going to be able to, if I want to, I clear out salary cap and have a couple young guys, and then go full at it and start getting those $40, $50 players team that I want to build. So
exactly,
really, everything was for me is for year 3. I do have no expectations of making the playoffs this year. I just want to be able to compete and just watch the young guys play, and that's really where we're at.
And I do want to make a statement because I know Jesus is over there waiting for us to jab at each other, but you got to understand, Jesus, I got to give props when people are actually doing props and sticking to their game plan. Like, you know what I mean? Like, is it easy for me to kick on his roster right now? Yeah, but the man has said he's building for the future. Like, what do you want me to say to that? You know what I mean? So he's doing the necessary things. Like, it's hard to talk trash to a guy who literally is telling you, like, look, man. I mean,
yeah, I get it. I even know I'm not the great Dennis that I once was because I don't have the roster to do that. But I am saying, come next year, the man's gonna start trash talking, and I'll still be there. So, maybe this year it's not as exciting and palpable as like some of these other rivalries, like you and Dom, and Anthony, and now Sean, and you know what I'm saying? I hear you, man.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Look, it makes sense because it's hard to trash talk somebody who's logical, and then for me, it's easy to trash talk somebody who doesn't have any logic in what they're doing. So I get it.
Right.
I get it. Dom lacks that part when it comes to fantasy football. So, my turn, right? So with Dennis. So I know Kirk Cousins, Steve, doesn't sound like a sexy player. Doesn't have the sexy name to it, but he was number 5. He finished number 5 fantasy football quarterback. Number 5. So he's damn good, especially for $1. That's damn good. Todd Gurley.
Oh, I'm not saying it's bad. I prefer Marcus Mariota. I think the ceiling is higher for Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, I mean, I look. That's just me. You know me. I'm a big Marcus Mariota fan. I mean, I wanted him, and Dennis outbid me for him, sadly. So I do think that Mariota may take the job from him. I do admit that. But as of right now, Kirk Cousins, I would say, has that job. So he has Todd Gurley, T.Y. Hilton, Alshon Jeffrey, and then a guy we're not talking about, but is looking really good, is Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram is looking like the best tight end so far in that draft. as of right now. Granted, it's still early, but at the end of the day, it's just fantasy numbers. He can't block, but he could sure as hell catch that ball. Dalvin Cook, I think we all agree, is going to be an absolute stud. So Dennis has a really good lineup. The only part that scares me is that bench. Is the bench, because I don't like Tevin Coleman. Robert Kelly lost a lot of weight, so I do think Robert Kelly is gonna be solid. But I don't know much about Austin Hooper. Chris Hogan, while he did really good this past week and then the injury to Edelman is going to mean more chances for him. But at the end of the day, they move the ball so much over there. Unless your name is Rob Gronkowski, it's really hard to narrow in on one guy. It's really difficult to do that. So I think like you said, Dennis needs to do one more move probably to really be in there. But at the end of the day, in my rankings, I have Dennis number 4. I have him 4th. So
we're same.
We're the same. So I mean, he's still a playoff team in that sense.
Yeah, he's still a play. But I think what we're considering is the fact we think he could trade his way back into the playoffs. Because I mean, again, if you're just looking at pure roster, I probably have him at like 6 at 7.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
But we know how good he is of a GM. You know what I mean? And that's why I really can't dog the guy. Like I love to. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm happy he's 6 and 7 as far as his roster, and you know what I mean. But I also am smart enough to not be like I can't say like, oh, I'm not worried about Dennis at all this season, because I know we could play a matchup, and next thing you know, he lands Junior, you know what I mean, and then now it's an issue. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like
that potential is still there. So that's why you have to put him 4, because he's going to get it done at some point.
Okay, fair enough. Let's get to who's next. You or the other team?
All right.
Let's do Steve.
Yeah, let's do me, because the other team actually finished higher than I did in the postseason. So yeah, we'll do the Empire next.
Okay.
Let's do that. 'Cause I'm going to drop out after this.
All right.
All right, go ahead, Dennis. You started off first.
Well, I'm going to simply put it as best draft, I thought. And I said that to Jesus right after the draft.
Yep.
I thought you really went out and got a lot of the players that I think you were kind of surprised that some of those players got you. You correct me if I'm...
I was not going to lie.
Nelson, I think you had the money to get some of that stuff done, but I was wrong. I thought you drafted really well. Now, one thing I will say about your team is as powerful as they are basically like a Band-Aid away from breaking.
Yes.
I feel if something goes wrong to one or two of those guys, then you may be in a little bit of trouble. Now, I don't see that happening, but it could happen. Anything can happen. So, Ajayi worries me with those degenerative knees.
Yep.
Jordy, I mean, Jordy's Jordy. He's still going to get his, don't get me wrong. But, there has been some thought that he's lost a step, even though, I don't see it. But, like I said, I think it's almost you're 1, but could be 3 or 4 in a hurry. I expect you to win the division pretty handedly, in my opinion. So that's really where we are with that. And like I said, I'm not going to trash talk, because I can't trash talk your draft. It was a great draft.
Thank you, sir.
Go ahead, Steve.
I'm not going to lie. I was very shocked on how many people allowed me to get some of these players. I thought, and I really was, I'll be very honest, I really did have Odell Beckham Jr. on my draft board pretty high, because I wanted the pair of Mike Evans and Odell Beckham Jr. It actually benefited me that I didn't get him, because I think the second output worked. My plan B was actually better than my plan A.
Yep.
So I'm happy for that. You know what I mean? And again, you prepare for these drafts and you hope that your plan A happens, but you also got to plan your plan B as equally as good as your plan A.
Agreed.
So the thing I think a lot of people kind of scratched their head was the Terrell Pryor pick for 33. And this is why I don't disagree with the statement that you guys made with the Redskins quarterback. I think Terrell Pryor is still a talent, and I think for $33, he's definitely around flex worthy. I was extremely happy that I got Martavius Bryant for $15 because I think he's going to play beyond that $15 mark. So, the Jordy Nelson, it's easy to get Jordy Nelson for 61. But I gotta agree with you guys. The fact that I got Jay Ajayi and Leonard Fournette for $38 a piece, that was a shocker. I did not think that was gonna happen. I was ecstatic, and then I started getting guys to add on top of that, like Martavius Bryant. And so I agree. I think this was probably my best draft period, since I've been in this league. I know in the past, I've gone after the big names and have done well with that strategy, but I think this year was the first time where I was in shock that I was getting so many good players, and I gotta say that I felt like I won the draft as well.
I agree.
And I agree. I mean, I actually agree. As far as drafting wise, Steve, you knocked it out the park. You absolutely did amazing. The best thing that could have happened to you was missing out on Odell Beckham. I mean, Jay Ajayi for $38, Jordy Nelson for $61. I'm not a big fan of Terrell Pryor, but I like Leonard Fournette, even though he was 38, but that's still a solid player. I love your team. I absolutely love the names that you have on your team. The only thing that concerns me is exactly what Dennis said, is your team is a Band-Aid or a suspension away from being risky. For example, Martavius Bryant is a guy that likes to, can't stay off the weed, so he does tend to get ahead, and he may get himself into trouble. You got Jay Ajayi with his degenerative knees. You have Jordy Nelson, who, let's face it, the guy, what is he, 32, 33 years old? He's up there in age. Yep. He's had injuries in the past. Andrew Luck with his shoulder injury. Leonard Fournette, since college, has had issues with his ankles. Coming to the NFL, he talks trash, and then he hurts his ankle. So,
yep.
You do have those injury guys. Even on the bench, Marvin Jones, his whole career, I don't think he's ever played a full 16 games in his career. So you do have a lot of risk on your team, a lot of it, but you also have a lot of potential. So regardless, I think, I do think that, it's for you, it's going to be one of two things. It's either going to be an amazing season or it's going to be a major disappointment. I don't think it's going to be anywhere in the middle unless you do one or two moves. Your team isn't one of those teams that's going to be in the middle. It's going to be one or the other, the way that it's currently constituted, in my opinion. But I do have you number 2 overall roster in this league, and it just goes to show how big you are on your team. You haven't done a single move. You haven't dropped anybody. You haven't traded anybody.
That don't really have to.
Yeah, exactly. That just goes to show how great of a draft you feel you had. So good job. Good job, Dennis. I know, my man, that that you have things you got to do. I appreciate you coming on for a few minutes and giving us some of your time.
Yeah. The only two people I really care about are Steve and myself. Other than that, I really don't care about what any of you do. That's just really being the truth, because you're not in my division, and everybody else is not in my division. I just worry about Steve each year, and that's my Super Bowl. But like I said, good luck to both of you. I personally think that you guys are 1 and 2, just the way I look at it, and I'll make sure I'm in that conversation next year.
Can't wait.
Definitely will.
Can't wait. It'll be fun, man. Thanks, D.
Can't wait for the trash talking.
Fellas, you know it. Fellas, good luck.
Thanks.
I'll be in touch.
Yep.
All right.
All right, Steve. So we got one more team left in this division. Let's go ahead and let's get there.
Team. Yep, runner-up. We're talking about, for those of you who don't know, the McCoon Handling Goat Engines, Rich's team. Runner-up last year. This year, you want to go first, man?
No, you go ahead. You could go ahead and go first, by all means.
So, in the very beginning, I'll be honest, I thought Rich didn't do well, and then the more I kind of think about it, he's just so top-heavy, and I think he is actually quite bigger of a threat than I initially thought.
Yep.
And the reason why is, let me read you these names. Derek Carr, Brandon Cooks, Julio Jones, Michael Thomas. You know what I'm saying? I don't even have to say anything else.
Yep.
You say that to most people, and you tell most people, hey, if I gave you these 5 players and the rest of your team was garbage, would you take it?
Yep.
And every person I asked that question to said, absolutely yes.
Yeah.
Without a question. So, initially, I mean, I thought it was bad, and I ranked him down. The only thing I don't like about his team, which I think you would probably agree with me, Jesus, is literally, if any of these guys go down, he is in a world of hurt. Because there is nobody behind on his bench that I'm really that big on. I mean, there are some keeper options, like I do feel great about Will Fuller. I still think he's going to be a phenomenal receiver when he's healthy. It won't be this year, but for next year he'll be good. Kevin White is, a question mark. We don't know what he's going to do. Darren Sproles is old. Latavius Murray I don't think he's going to do anything. So really, it's from Delanie Walker up. You know what I'm saying? Like that is where it's going to carry his team. And currently today, based on that, I have Rich at 5. And the only reason why I have him at 5 and not at 4 is just because I don't really see Rich do too many moves where I see Dennis do moves. So that's why I kind of put Dennis over Rich. But in terms of this roster, he is definitely in contention, and he's going to be a problem for me if all of those guys are healthy. I'll be completely honest about that.
Okay. So, I mean, for me, I refuse. I will not talk any trash about Rich at all this year because he saved my draft. He absolutely saved me with the Michael Thomas trade. So, no, I'm not going to talk any trash. I actually agree with you 100%. I think his team is rock solid, and I think he's going to compete to win that division with Derek Carr, Devontae Freeman, Brandon Cooks, Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, Delanie Walker. That team is fire.
That's a roster.
That team is fire. Now, I disagree with the whole Will Fuller thing. You and I, we're on separate, ends of the earth on that one. You think Fuller's going to be a good player. I think that he's not because of injury, but just because he drops the ball way too much since college. Even last year when he was in the league, he had a couple of big drops. He's one of those guys. He's boom or bust. He's either going to make the big play and make the catch, or he's going to drop the ball. So. That's why I'm not a big fan of him. But I like Josh Dotson. I'm a big fan of Josh Dotson. He's a big guy. He's going to be in the red zone. He's going to get looks there. Latavius Murray is going to, I think, steal red zone carries from a Cook at the end of the day. And then Cameron Meredith, they're just reporting that the Bears are concerned that he just tore his ACL, which means Kevin White, if this guy could stay healthy, is going to be the number one receiver there. So I think I really like Rich's team, and I think he's going to compete. He's going to compete for that division. So I won't talk any trash about his team. I think it's very good. I think, like always, it's one of those things that with Rich, you look from the outside, it's boring, it's nothing interesting, and you're just like, But then when you actually start to study, you're like, man, this is pretty damn good. And that's exactly what this is. It's one of those that's pretty damn good. So I don't have much to say other than I think he will be in competition. I have him actually, after just studying it right now, I actually just moved him up from 7 to 6 because I think his team is that good.
Yeah, I still got him at 5. I mean, I think his roster is going to create some damage and some problems for people. It's going to be a lot for some teams to overcome. I mean, again, he just needs to work the waiver wire much more than he's ever done before, just in case something happens to his guys. But if nothing happens to him, he's definitely going to be a problem, and he's going to be a problem for me. So we'll see what happens.
Yep. All right. Well, that's the West Division. So, it's gonna be. I think it's pretty interesting. It's gonna be a fight. It's gonna be a dog fight. I think based off what we're seeing, Rich, Steve, and Dennis are gonna be competing. Probably Rich and Steve are gonna compete for the first, and then I think Gabe and Dennis are competing right there at the next spot. So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Can't wait. That is our West Division. Where next show we will go ahead and cover our East. Thank you guys for tuning in. We are out. Peace.